Hey, g'day, hi, g'day, hi, and welcome. Okay. Sorry, he's outside cleaning out the garage there. So I got bin number 16 ready to go. I think it's bin number 16. 17 degrees, 32% humidity. Not bad. I don't know if I'll be able to do my vocals today for my Tomahawk song. My guitar's in here. Got all the heat off except for one. It's actually roasting in here. 17 degrees and I only have the heat on 10. I gotta turn the damn thing right off. I'll turn it right. I'm crazy like that. But it's supposed to go up to plus six today. Plus six today. Let's go have a look at my. I'll show you. I'll show you something. I'll show you something. You'll be amazed and astounded. Actually, I want you to take a mental note. Look, all the ice fell off the roof. It's all solid ice there. Oh my god! Look at those death icicles. That whole side just fell off. But if you think about it, that there is about 4 feet high. There's the window there. Just so you can get, in the summertime when you realize how deep that snow actually is. Like the wheelbarrow over there and the old laundry step there, that was completely covered. And that thing's, the laundry step is at least 2 feet off, 2.5 feet off the ground. So is that stump, right? And they were like buried. You wouldn't even know they're my way out there. At the barns, the scrap metal pile was completely, wow. The barrel was covered. The barrel was over the barrel. The barrel's 3 feet. That barrel sunk in the ground a bit too. So, well, look at all the snow dying. Nice. Nice when those chunks of ice are off the roof, though. Yeah. Look at the mess in here. Look what Marvin did. Can't wait to do the spring cleaning. I'll wait a little bit more. Maybe next week. I can still walk around on the crust. Because what happens is it freezes solid at night and then it gets, like it's that March crust where it's like, it kind of gets wet and damp all day from the heat and then freezes solid and you got a massive crust layer you can walk on. It's like walking on pavement almost. But I did put out bin 17. Definitely a cat sprayed in here. It was either, I can smell it. It was either Joey or Rover. Yes, my nephew and I named a cat Rover. Why? This is a great name for a cat. Probably would name a dog Rover too. I mean, if you think about it, might I don't know. You have to be kind of crazy to do that, I think. Yeah, so cat named Rover. I know it wasn't Casper because Casper's been on holidays all winter over at my aunt's. He's been living the high life. Yeah, my little cousins, all 3 little girls there. I can imagine it pampering the crap out of them. Sitting there, and then the summertime he'll be down here doing some mousing. No mice today, so that's good. Yeah, so there we go. What a lovely day. Let's talk about Doom. Yeah. I don't have to work tomorrow, but the next day. And then the day after that a little bit. And then Friday on, I at least have 1 day a week, possibly 2 days a week. Because this is going to be a late start to the season. I can already tell you it's going to be an extremely tough year. Never mind all the other stuff going on top of that. It's going to be crazy. Got my bike there ready to work on that. Got some stuff. Let's see where we're at. Yeah. Stuff in that freaking, I'll be happy when I get that freaking shed, the dust in there. Yeah, oil in the Chinese yuan. Okay, so the Iranians have found a way outside the SWIFT system, right? I mean, they've been doing it for a while, so this is not new. So we know the Iranians are basically dodging the SWIFT system, which is basically the petrodollar, right? And if you don't use the SWIFT system, the petrodollar is dead, right? Which is the biggest thing that the elites fear because the world runs on the petrodollar, and the yuan will be strengthened. Again, this is the the George Soros pivot to Asia. Again, all of our world elites, like I agree with Henrik Palmgren of Red Ice, where he's like, is this a feature or a bug? Like, is it just that they're so incompetent they basically crash the world economy, or are they doing it on purpose? And I'm more a believer that they're doing it on purpose. I know Cameron McGregor would disagree. He's like, no, these people are just reactionary. They're they don't really have a plan on anything. I do believe there is a lot of that, but no, I think on whoever's at the absolute top, which is not one person. It's a multitude of billionaires, right? Or trillionaires, whatever they are. And like, they tried to crash the global economy in 2008, right? They do these resets from time to time. They know it's coming. They manipulate the markets, so they absolutely know it's coming. The stock market is completely manipulated, right? That's not financial advice. It's just common sense. Like George Soros, I remember when they asked him on public TV, like, you guys sometimes get accused of insider trading. He just smirks. Oh no, we would never do that. Yeah, like just the way they smirk. You know what I mean? Like, that. How do you think these guys get rich on every catastrophe? Oh, they're just so brilliant. They're in on it. Like Trump is like. I watched a girl named House of L. She's very, very. Yeah, okay. You could probably deduct that she's probably a little bit more on the left on some things. You know what I mean? But she's very non-political. She's just numbers, data. And she's like. She couldn't have summed it up any better. She's like talking about basically Trump manipulating the markets. The first time you do it, it's like your cronies, they fall for it, blah, 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 or people fall for it. They get out, your cronies make a whole bunch of money on it, right? The second time, they're a little suspicious, most fall for it, but, again, they make money off of it, right? And then the third time, nobody falls for it, but she goes, and that's bad enough to manipulate the market once, let alone 5 times in 1 week. She's being factual. Yeah, like, it's true. Trump pretty much signals, and you think about the Trump family, how much they're just raping the public off of this. And the Bidens did it again. The difference with Trump is he's just overt instead of covert. It was like the difference between George Bush and Obama. Obama was covert. George Bush was overt, right? Which is typically, we're going to do this to you and we're going to tell you. But the difference was, and again, George Bush Jr., everybody's like, that man is so stupid. And like I remember, I don't know if stupid's the right term, but just like boomer gullibility, right? Because boomers themselves are like practically smart, but when it comes to big picture stuff, a lot of the time they're not very good at big picture. Some are, like, again, hashtag not all, right? But when you get to like guys like George Bush, like, yeah, very easy to manipulate to get that guy into a war because he's a neocon by whatever. Trump is kind of like George Bush in that sense, where it's like everybody's like, oh, you're. Where the difference is George Bush, you actually had to trick him into doing the war, right? Where Trump, no, he's wanted this. Like this idea that, oh, Netanyahu's lying to him and that poor Trump. Again, stop with the cope. He's in on it. They're all in on it. Like all of them. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle. It's just the other side of the aisle wasn't crazy enough to do it all. Like Obama was like, okay, well, we're not going to take out Iran that way because if we do, we'll hit him with sanctions. We'll do that. Okay, we'll pay him off, whatever. Give him again, C-130s full of money, whatever, right? And again, you never know. Maybe maybe Obama was actually truly against Israel. I don't think he was or he was just like, okay, well, I'm not for Israel. I'll do as much as I can get away with, but I'm not going to put myself out for them. maybe he was that. You know what I mean? And I know, like, oh, Obama was so horrible. He still fought all the wars for him. You know, again, it's just we're seeing the conclusion of the Greater Israel Project 1.0. Greater Israel Project 2.0. Like, it's never going to stop. The Israelis will have to kill everybody on the planet. Like, they're gone insane. You listen to these people, they're fucking insane. And I understand there's a lot of, clips or whatever, but it's just there's too many clips. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you listen to the radical left, right? It makes you think like every second person on the planet is like that. But with the Israelis, it's different because you could track like large swaths of the population in favor of, like they were in favor of the war until they got hit back, right? Which is a typical Jewish thing. You lash out pain as they strike you, right? Not bashing on all Jews, but the majority of them, this is the way they function. You got the IDF out there right now complaining about, there's too many war fronts. There's like 9 war fronts and they can't handle it all. And you know what? Instead of calling for peace, the IDF is not calling for peace. No. They're like, oh, we can't handle all these war fronts. And you know what the problem is? The problem is that the Orthodox Jews can't be drafted. No, maybe we should have fucking peace talks. Maybe we should get away from the sanity. Maybe we shouldn't fucking try to genocide everybody in the region. And, maybe we shouldn't try to take on, like 91 million fucking furious people, Persians. Maybe we shouldn't do that. No. The problem is we need to get more meat for the fucking grinders, what we need. That's the IDF, guys. That's the leader, that's the head of the IDF sitting beside Netanyahu. So Netanyahu's sitting there. It's not a critique of Netanyahu at all. It's just like, hey, you don't have enough meat for the grinder, right? That's the people we're dealing with, right? Anyway, yeah, so Iran is still making a little bit of money. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's reports that like 90,000 buildings have been destroyed in these airstrikes. 90,000. Wow. I don't even think there's 90,000 buildings in the entirety of Ottawa. You know what I mean? Like the capital of Canada. I doubt there'd be even 90,000 there. That's a lot. But I mean, that's, like, how do you actually add that up? You know what I mean? So that means they're carpet bombing. You know what I mean? Like, if you destroyed 91,000 buildings, you're carpet bombing. You know what I mean? Yeah, mind you, a lot of these buildings are like really small too. They're really close together, a lot of them too. But Tehran is a fairly modern city. Like, I know the media thinks have you think every Iranian's living in a mud hut, but no, it's it's not Afghanistan. It's not like little villages like Afghanistan. I mean, there are villages like that there, but no, the cities are modern cities. They got skyscrapers, they got all that stuff. You know what I mean? But the thing is selling the oil in the yuan takes care of a lot of problems for the BRICS people, because like the Chinese, they basically, the yuan is protected by manufacturing, basically. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if they have to go along with the petrodollar or whatever here or there, because it could stand on its own. It could become the reserve currency, right? It has enough strength to do that. It's really about security and adaptation. And right now, the U.S. currency is the Achilles heel of the United States, right? Now, of course, Donald Trump's going to put his signature on every fucking dollar that's being printed right now. Yeah, I can imagine the spin of the Q. I'm not even listening to the Q people. I haven't listened to them in like years. Like, how many of these Q people are like? These are again. I believe Q was a Henry Kissinger plan. It had to be. It had to be. But anyway, that's a big one. So the ultimatum, the 15-point peace plan, which was like completely like way over bloated. Like, they know there was no way the Iranians were going to go for that. So the Iranians countered with something that they know absolutely Israel and the United States will not go for, right? But it's in their interest. Yes, they are taking hits, and there's people that say, well, we're winning because we did 9,000 sorties. Well, it's probably over 10,000 sorties now. And like 19,000 targets hit, blah, blah. I don't know how many of the Iranians have hit targets. It's nowhere near that much, but they're not targeting everybody. You know what I mean? Like, they're not just fucking hitting anything and everything. Like, you can't hit that many targets and say you're being objective with your targeting. Like, that's very, very, like, yes, they're using the AI. I understand it's the kill chain is much faster. You've got satellites that are about 10 times more efficient and numerous than what they were in 1991 with the Gulf War. Sure, 10 times the resolution, 10 times the coverage. Sure, okay, faster. And you've got drones that are even more accurate. You've got AWACS. You've got all that stuff. That's way more accurate for targeting. And then you've got the AI data with the Palantir and all that stuff. Sure. But even at that, like I say, you're blowing up trucks full of hummus. You're like, everything is being considered a military target. It's indiscriminate targeting at that point. It's the highway of death. So, like I say, like, there's no, like, every time you hear like Lindsey Graham or Mark Rubio or Vance or Trump go on about, or Hegseth go on about, oh, we're doing this to liberate the Iranian people. Like, no. I think it's like Professor Moran. You said, sure, yeah, he's going to be biased because he's Iranian. I get that. But he's probably correct when he says, like, yeah, sure, the youth were against the Ayatollah and stuff like that because, the oppressive regime, no freedom of speech and stuff like that. And I even heard from, I forget which report it was that's in Iran right now, how they're able to get, signals out. I don't know. They'd have to be doing it with the regime's, they're probably two armed guards sitting there. If they say it's the wrong thing, fucking put bullets in them. But they're like, like most people in Iran, she goes like, yes, there's people that, there's no love lost for the Ayatollah, but, they're way madder at Israel and the United States for destroying their country and killing their people. You know what I mean? And you get these really thick people. Well, they're all terrorists anyway. You know the type, like, they're fucking disgusting people. It's like the amount of women and children. Like, every time we're going to save the women and children of democracy, and you just kill so many of them, right? So how is the United States better than the IDF? You know what I mean? Like, how are they better than Israel if they're going to do that, right? Most Americans do not want this. That's the difference between Israel and the United States. Is about 80% or 85% of Americans are completely against this war, right? Because it's not America first, whether they're on the left or the right. Like, most MAGA people are not MAGA people anymore. They've been betrayed. They've been sold out, and we told you so. Liberals are like, they're full of shit. Because they didn't care when Obama was doing it. It's just Obama never took it to the fucking level where he collapsed the fucking world economy. He kept it, isolated to Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. You know what I mean? And he wasn't dumb enough to take on, like, I understand the gullibility of Trump, where it's like, well, we're America. We have the number one military in the world. It doesn't work like that, guys. The Germans had the number one military in the world. They still lost, right? And it wasn't even close. Like, a Tiger tank or even a Panzer tank against a fucking Sherman was no match. It's just there was 10,000 Shermans and only 1,300 Tigers, right? The King Tigers were almost invincible. The Tiger tank of World War II was probably it was considered the most, by all the Allies, it was considered the most terrifying weapon next to the U-boat. Like the Germans with the U-boats, they had 900 U-boats. Like, they fucking, like, terror of the seas, you know what I mean? And they still lost. Like the U-boat 21, Type 21, Type 23. Like, if they would have gotten those things into mass production, there's no way Germany could have lost the war. You would never be able to resupply Europe. These things were like deadly quiet. These were the first rubber-covered submarines. And again, every modern submarine is basically based on that formula. nowadays. Like these were cutting edge submarines for their time, you know, old diesel electric. But the thing is that they had jets. You know, they had rocket powered interceptors. They had jets. They had everything that the Allies didn't have, and they still lost. Right. So your F-22, F-35 is not really that much of a game changer. It really isn't, because again, if we're looking at the art of war, the Iranians are fighting the Americans where they're not. You know what I mean? Like, we're like, okay, you guys got tanks, bombs, and battleships, or not battleships, but destroyers and stuff like that, and fighter jets, and that's great, but we're using rockets and drones and cruise missiles in a totally different type of war. You know? And it's kind of like all that World War II based model stuff. Like, again, we got the ultimate refinement of a World War II model with the United States. So, like, even Canada with our new procurements, it's like, okay, well, maybe we don't need 15 new destroyers. Maybe we only need 3. And instead of 12 submarines, maybe we need 60. You know what I mean? But even at that, the 12 submarines, I think 12 submarines is, after that procurement, it's like if we actually have sensible generals in Canada to be like, okay, well, that's not what we need. Like, look, sea mines are way cheaper, and for one destroyer, you could have sea mines. There's sea mines that are ones that are like they sink in the mud on the shore. They're almost impossible to detect. And you got, you know, your World War II style ones with the magnetic mines or whatever. You know, just the floating mines. You know, they look like a ball with spikes on it. You know, they'll magnetically move towards a hull, right? And then as soon as they touch, boom, right? Then you've got sea mines that can discriminate between a tanker and a warship, right? And those have been around since the 50s. And then you've got these highly, highly dangerous sea mines, which I think is the wave of the future, and I think it's what Canada should invest in, because we're already, you know, investing in like Canada is one of the, a lot of people don't realize this, is we are one of the best mine sweeping countries in the world, whether it's land mines or sea mines. Canada's always been, like, since World War II, that's been our forte, right? So we're better at it than just about anybody. I know Canada sucks and our military, no, our guys, if you look at, like, I was just looking at some of the, like the CGN oceanographic ships that we're building. Like, we got the coolest stuff ever. Like, okay, it's smaller scale, but like our oceans and fisheries have these vessels, these maritime research vessels, where a keel comes out and it's got like all these little radars and sonars on the bottom of them. Not radars, sonars, and multi-spectrum sonars and stuff like that. And basically what they can do is they can use basically using different wave frequencies to not only detect fish, but using different spectrums of frequencies, they can tell you what type of fish it is. Like, I mean, how cool is that, right? You know, and then we got these anti-sea mine drones that we've been working on for decades. We got these little autonomous subs. We got all this stuff, you know, and you know what I mean. It's like we got a lot of this really refined expertise. It's just you know, low in numbers. But getting back to sea mines, like the Russians have these sea mines, the Chinese have these sea mines. I'm sure the Americans have them too. Where the sea mines are not regular sea mines. What they are is it's a unit, okay, that can receive basically, basically like codes under, you know, like little, it's the way they communicate with subs and stuff like that. You send out like this little, like this little code, right? And that code unlocks like a little cocoon, and out of it comes a torpedo. And they're almost impossible to do. Norway, for example, and I can imagine Sweden as well. All those fjords, they've got like little torpedo rooms built into these fjords where they can actually fire torpedoes, basically from the mainland into that. I think Canada needs to start working on that kind of coastal defense. So you want to take out Greenland? Okay, well, and you can't go into the Darien Strait because we got sea mines and we could torpedo you from shore. And then we're going to give that technology to Greenland. You know what I mean? So that's what's going to happen. So yeah. But that said, the Iranians might have this technology. We know they have 4 to 5 types of sea mines to begin with. But I can imagine they probably can fire torpedoes from shore. You know, like you don't have to come out and meet the ship. Like you're 20 miles off. You just need to have a think like those like Vietnam era like PT boats, World War II PT boats, right? Where they had like 4 little torpedoes on it. Though that's all you the S boats, the German S boats. Like that's what Canada needs for coastal defense. You come out, and you've got 4 heavy torpedoes on an 80-foot speedboat, basically, but you've got Mark 48s that have like a 60 nautical mile range, right? So, but once you know where the carrier group is, you could drop these torpedoes, and like torpedo anti-torpedo technology is really really tricky. You know what I mean? Because these torpedoes are smart, and if they're semi-autonomous or remote guided torpedoes, where yeah, sure, you see them on the surface, but they pop up at the last minute, and then a little periscope comes up, or whatever, or wire guided. If you got these torpedoes that go several kilometers wire guided, there's no stopping those. Like you can't, decoys don't work on those. Those things are terminal. Why? Because you can't break the signal, and you, the human being, can probably more likely determine a decoy versus the real thing. You'll hit it every time. You know what I mean? And that, like F-21 torpedoes, like the French use. Those things are like pretty much unstoppable. Yeah, and I can imagine the Chinese have reversed engineered those by now. And if they had them, the Iranians have them. So there's that. But yeah, the one is a big one. Like again, this is a fifth dimensional warfare because it's becoming an economic warfare. Like think about it. Like Iran is a nothing burger. They've pretty much collapsed the world oil supply. You know what I mean? Like people are like, get ready, because the amount of hardship that the world is about to face because of Israel and the United States. Like right now, the hatred for Israel is like through the roof. Well, the United States, it's about to follow. Like if you're American, you're thinking of going touring around the world backpacking, like you're going to be treated like shit everywhere you go. Why? Because nobody wanted this war in any country except for Israel and and a handful of idiots in the United States, right? And like there's no talking point that's going to come up saying, well, we had to do this because if you haven't seen the propaganda that the Iranians are putting out, the Lego thing, if you haven't seen those, those are that's excellent propaganda. The one they did last night, yeah, the one they did the night before, it's like, yeah, it's like Trump talking that how yeah oh my God, they're 2 weeks away from getting the nuclear bomb. Oh wow, like this is like you mean even more like 2 weeks closer, 2 weeks away than the last 2 weeks away. Yeah. They've been saying 2 weeks away now for what, since 1970s. It's 2 weeks. They're 2 weeks away from this, or 2 weeks. You know what I mean? My hunch is they already have the weapons anyway. It's just they'll use them in retaliation. If Israel strikes Iran with a nuke, right? The Iranians are going to go full glory. They're going to be like, well, the Americans are going to jump in on it too. Like that's what Trump wants, is to have the green light to nuke Iran, because again, the goal isn't for regime change. The goal is to kill 91 or 94 million Persians. That's what the goal is. And that's what they want in the Greater Israel. Oh, that's impossible. No, we're not that evil. 2 million people displaced and 70,000 minimum murdered in basically carpet bombing of Gaza. That's what the Israelis want to do to not just everybody in the Middle East around them. Like they pretty much openly admit this stuff, right? That's what they want to do. Like the majority of Israelis were okay with killing Palestinians like that. Like you know, what I mean, like us in the like outside the you know in the Western world, we're mortified by it because like we can't understand the evil, right? But that is the Middle East mindset. It's not just the Israelis. Look, if other groups could do it, they would do it too. You know what I mean? Like that's why we should be completely out of the Middle East. You know what I mean? Let them all go back to being goat herders, fighting with sticks and stones, and let them hate each other in peace. You know what I mean? That's the best we could ever hope for the Middle East. Uh, so I'm not pro Iran, but I'm also like okay, I don't want to see you know like basically nuclear fallout everywhere because of these fucking idiots, right? But the second they do, then like I mean like look, people are really mad everywhere, right? You know at every government, right? That's why a lot of governments are very cautious of running out with like the political. Oh, we have to you know, stand with the refugees and blah blah blah. Like a lot of people are not gonna take that this time around. That's right. I just gotta get a little bit more water. Oh, let your ADD get the best of you. That's the problem when I clean that shed there. It's like the dust in there. Not healthy anyway. But anyway. So the water remedy is a big thing. The fact that they're doing a toll to get around, you know, like charging freighters that go through, same way kind of like the Egyptians do with the Suez Canal. Like there's a fee to go through there, so they make money off of it. I'm not opposed to that. Like I mean, you know, like one side of the strait, I guess, is you know the other guys they could do the same thing too. It's like, well, there's our fee and there's your fee. Okay, well, we'll just do a joint fee and then we'll just split the thing. But because they're enemies, they won't do that, right? But what I'm also saying too is that like when you look at the propaganda that's out there right now, it's almost like George Bush had proper propaganda backing him. This time around, like Trump is like 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 George Bush, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Bin Laden's in a cave somewhere that we have to, you know, you know, go take them out, right? Remember the Bin Laden caves all over CNN? They're all in on it, right? The CNN was in on it. Like, where did they get out? Oh, this is Pentagon sources. This is, you know, like, how would they know where these bunkers were? Like, here's these caves. We don't know where they are, but we know all about them. So we have the whole layout and the blueprint of the cave, but we have no idea where it is. And nobody picked up on that. You know what I mean? It's like, we know because sources say. Yeah, what sources? Oh, we can't tell you. We can never tell you, right? I'm like, if it's not openly admitted, just don't even bother with it. Sources say, yeah, everybody has their secret source, right? Oh, operate in the open. Operate in the open. So yeah, the Lego propaganda one there last night was basically the landing of Cargo Island. So it's like, you know, it's like they started showing like you know U.S. graveyards of you know soldiers and stuff like that in the Lego forms. You got this one guy, Trump, you killed me. So you know they basically did like a spoof of Apocalypse Now, basically with the helicopter scene, but it just like went horribly, horribly wrong. Um, but again, like the psychological of that is if you're a U.S. troop and you're watching all these Iranian like Lego things, that's going to appeal to a younger generation, like a millennial or Gen Z, right? That's in the military. They go look at that. It's like, yeah, you know, like that might be what's going to happen to me. You know what I mean? And right now, like the Iranians have the moral high ground. You know what I mean? They have the moral high ground. Everybody's mad at the Jews for what they've done, you know. And it's like people are able to separate, okay, Zionist from Jew. It's like you're allowed to say I'm anti-Zionist, but you can never say I'm anti-Jew. But it's like okay, it's kind of one and the same. You know what I mean? But like it's not anti-Semitic to say, hey, I disagree with genocidal wars and forever wars and just wars of stupidity. You know, wars of mass distraction. Like people, like are like you're not going to gaslight them anymore. So with the U.S. boxer um, and the Iwo Jima and the Tripoli, they're now it's like something like 6,000 troops going to there, and over 10,000 troops. Like, look, the 10,000 troop thing. Okay, this is why Trump is asking for a 10 days or ceasefire or whatever, right? So that they can get these guys into place, so that they can do whatever they're going to be going there to do. My hunch is they're going there to extract bodies. Like this idea that every time there's a rocket hits and it's okay, there's people injured, but nobody ever dies. Guys, the amount of people that have probably been killed in this, and again, the Iranians aren't just going scorched earth. Like, everybody says, "Oh, they're going scorched earth." They're not. They're very selective about what they're hitting, and the fact that they're not firing as many rockets, don't take that for that they're running out. Like that's stupidity. They've been preparing this for decades, right? The whole rocket barrage things were to overwhelm air defense systems and radar detection. Once they've achieved that, okay, I think they took out another radar station last night. They're working their way down the chain. Take out the smaller radars. Like once you take out these little, for example, mortar teams, whether they got the 120 millimeter mortar, the 60 millimeter, or 81 millimeter mortar, whatever they're, the little 52 millimeter mortars, whatever they're using, they have this little panel that could tell them where like incoming artillery and stuff and mortars are coming from. Right? They could detect it and they can create a fire solution in on that based on its trajectory. How okay, if it's coming down at this angle, it's probably been fired within this range, and you can hone in on your enemy that way, right? So you got all these little tiny little radars all over the place. There's probably thousands of those, right? Those can be taken out with personnel drones, but to get close enough to them, you basically have to take out the bigger radars, which the bigger radars are down. And there's a report, I think another AWAC may have been hit. And they might be reporting on the same, might have been a report on an AWAC that got hit a couple of days ago, but it's another AWAC down. Like no matter what, every time you lose an AWAC or an air tanker, like there's 64 tankers that were deployed to this, right? Now, the thing is air tankers around the world, if there's 400 air tankers around the world max, the United States has the majority of them. We have something like 9 of them. I think America has like 109 of them, or 110, or whatever it is. Now, that's what's in service. Maybe they have another 500 of these things in mothball. I don't know. But even if they're in mothball, you're still looking at 6 months to get them out of there. Like these are airliners. They're 747s basically with, they're a 747 gas station, flying gas station, right? But they're also they also bring supplies and stuff like that. They're not just an air-to-air tanker. Like it's a major capability, logistics capability you lose when you lose these. Same thing with the heavy lift aircraft, like C-5 Galaxies. There's not that many of them. There's only these are like this. The third largest aircraft ever built is a C-5 Galaxy. If you've ever been in one, they're pretty impressive, especially when the nose is all the way up there. I remember at the air show, I'm like, holy wow, what they did is they put the nose up. You can walk up the ramp and you can walk out the nose, right? And you can do that, and then you go right to the C-17, and you go that, and then you go into the C-130, and they go like that, and then C-5 Galaxy. It's just to see one in the flesh and walking through one for the first time is like it's just so big. It's just colossal. It's colossal. It's like how does this thing even get off the ground, right? But that is a hell of a capability to lose, right? The C-17 is a hell of a capability to lose. Walk through again. I haven't been to an air show in decades. I'd like to go to an air show again because I want to take my nephew to an air show, right? But like like the Carp Air Show, that's pretty far and stuff like that. But we'd have to spend the night in Carp or whatever. or at least in Ottawa, and whatever. And air shows, like I loved it when it was at the Ottawa airport. I did. But that said, losing those assets, and it seems like more and more of those are getting lost because, like, there's one guy I listen to him. He seems like a nice guy. He's definitely a veteran. I don't think he's not old. Like I don't think the guy's like in his early 30s even, and he just has that kind of gullible kind of farm boy. I know I'm a farm boy myself, but well, country boy, maybe not farm boy, but well, technically farm light. I don't know. Like I had chickens and pigs and stuff, but the point is that like he's kind of like, well, Israel's our ally, blah blah blah, and you can tell he's not deep into the philosophy of it. It's just kind of like, well, it's our ally, so we have to support them. So obviously Iran's the bad guy, but like I can't really tell you why they're the bad guy, whatever. But he was out there going like, oh my God, like did we not learn from the Ukraine? Like months ago, Americans were laughing at the Russians watching Ukrainians just whack all those bombers out in the open, like just sitting there, these little wire guided drones just coming, eep, eep, like mosquitoes, just, like right, all these bombers right out there in the open, right? And what happened in the United States? Same thing, right? And it's simple. Like these are large aircraft. Like if you're in the military and you've been around these large aircraft, you know what I mean? Like they take up a lot of, like you can't really put, like there's only so many hangars you can build, right? There's only so many hangars that will house a C-130, let alone a C-5 Galaxy. You know what I mean? Like there's only a handful in the world, hangars large enough in the world to put, 747 and Airbus 380 type of air, 777s. Like there's not a lot of places that have those facilities. I remember the Ottawa airport before it got its, like a 737, I think was the biggest thing it could house, right? And that's like considered like puny by today's standards. So they had to rebuild these massive, massive hangars so you could get and stretch the runway out an extra like something like 2,000 feet just to be able to get those 747s in. And they spent billions of dollars upgrading that. That took like a decade. You know what I mean? So where do you put these aircraft? Well, the smaller aircraft, if they have to stay outside, they put these little brick wall, barrier things in between them, so that at least if a mortar comes down and blows up, it just hits the brick wall, or it hits one aircraft and not everything on the line, right? But that takes time to move that stuff into place, and do you have the room for it? You know what I mean? Like there's so a lot of this stuff is just going to get hit out in the open. It's just going to get hit out in the open. But no, the massive troops, obviously, they're gearing up for something. I'm still saying they're going in to do extractions of embassies and like American citizens, and probably just like people that want to like drain out of the Middle East right now, because like the airports, like I mean the massive fire that was at which airport was it last? Like, I mean all the domestic airports are getting hit too, right, in the region. So like at some point, like once those airplanes leave, they're not coming back for another load of people. You know what I mean? Like it's like the airline, just the insurance companies probably won't let them come back. Like it's it's like it's a war zone. It's like we got our assets out of there. We're not bringing them back to get destroyed. Because think of all those airliners. Just the like what, probably lost 50 airliners by now. That's a whole economy. Like how long does it take to pay off an airliner? You know what I mean? Like how many passengers you have to fly around the world to do that? A lot, right? So taking a loss for any air company, most airline companies operate on the margins. They don't really make that much of a profit. Most of the time, like for example, Air Canada loses money. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's like, wow, we should just privatize Air Canada. Now, I agree, it should be privatized to a degree, but we should always have some sort of a backup national airline company, because like the thing about it is that this idea that the free market's going to fix the problem all the time it clearly can't, not on that scale, like it just doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? Like the private sector is not profitable enough Like WestJet, when they came up, yeah, they were making money and stuff, but you got to have to understand that was bankrolled as well, right? So once that bankroll kind of runs out, well, they're just like any government run, like they lose money too. So it's like, okay, well, the only way we're going to make money is if we cut people's salaries and stuff like that, because we can't cut the flying regulations, right? We can't say, okay, well, they can't do like what you know. Warren Buffett did to us when he bought the freaking our rail lines. Like, who the fuck would allow that to happen? I think I was under Harper that happened. Like, that was dumb. Privatizing the rail lines. No, that's national security. Rail lines should always be like, that's critical infrastructure. But anyway, yeah. So they deregulated the maintenance so they can make profit, right? And then what's the result of that? Lac Megantic, like the train crash there, and how many people died in that, right? Like that was, when you have a train that derails halfway through a town, that's a fucking bad thing, And sometimes, the train just has to go through the town. There's just no way around that, right? Yeah. So airliners are the same thing. You can't deregulate the maintenance on the airliners, although whenever they can, they do. They do it more in the States than they do it up here. You usually hear it's like, but that's what makes it so expensive, right? But what's your safety worth? You tell me. We see what happens when you make cuts to the air traffic controllers, right? We saw it last week. Like two brave pilots died, trying to save their passengers. You know, Why? Because you had a guy, and again, I don't really blame the air traffic controller. Yes, it is his fault technically, but like trying to manage that many, like the ground traffic plus, like where like doing that, like just like you got these guys working way too long of hours, way too. Oh, but yeah, but then we'll have to pay people more, and then well, it'll cost. If we want the service, that's what it's going to cost. That's what's going to cost to be safe. You have to, like, you can't have guys sitting there 16 hours a day trying to fucking manage flights coming. It's just screw ups are going to happen anyway. But the troops, yeah, I still say they're probably not going to be invasion troops. If anything, they're going to be supporting rebel groups. But most likely, I think what they're going to do is extract bodies and like basically rescue the remainder of the like 20 or 30,000 or 50,000 or whatever amount of troops that are in the Middle East that are basically, okay, we got to send in the cavalry to come and get them. Empty out those motels so that we can extract these guys, right? Because these guys they probably have their rifles and stuff like that, but they probably don't have any support to get them out of there. You know what I mean? Like, and if, like if they leave these motels, these U.S. soldiers, they leave the motels. You got to understand, like, the populace in the populations of these Gulf state nations, they're getting very, very fucking angry with their leaders, right? You're about to have an Arab Spring 2.0 in such a, well, there's been a lot of Arab Springs, but like a real Arab Spring where the entire Gulf states monarchies are either driven out of the country. Remember the guy from Djibouti, the leader of Djibouti, running with his fucking suitcase to the ship with the mob behind him that were going to kill him? You're about to see that play out through the entire Middle East because most of these Gulf states are like, yeah, we want to get our guys in on. Like, will their soldiers revolt? I don't know. Like, there's already talks of like U.S. soldiers revolting against the Trump administration. I hope that's true, but it's also a scary thing because that means you're that close to a military coup, right? And that is going to be a very terrifying thing for Americans to like to see their country fall apart like that. Yeah. Okay. Iran can't do nothing. Their weapons are not nothing. It's all nothing burger. We're winning. Whatever. Okay. The Gulf states just lost $600 million in tourism. $600 million in tourism. That, you don't recover from, like, how many job losses is that in the Middle East? Like, you got to think about that too. Like, that's a part of the weaponry that the Iranians will be able to tap into. It's like, yeah, the reason why you don't have a job is because of Trump and Netanyahu and Jews, right? Like, it's, Zionists and Jews. Like, it's basically, that's why you don't have a job right now. That's why the motel that you used to work in, that you loved working in for decades, and were getting nice tips and all that, and your favorite clients, well, they got killed because there was U.S. soldiers in the room next to them. They're dead, and you out of job because of that. That again, right? Who are they going to put the blame on? Well, they're going to go to their embassies. They're going to go. Well, that's why you see all these embassies being surrounded, and I'm sure there's proxy groups that are surrounding it. Like, look, these countries like Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, they don't have the security forces or the budget to secure American soldiers from like roving jihadi groups. You know what I mean? Half their military might be sympathetic to Iran. You don't know. You know what I mean? Okay, this one was kind of weird. Okay, Trump on one of his spastic rants. Like, this guy is like a nervous talker right now. Like, he's not senile. What he is he's a chronic pathological psychopathic liar that is, and with like delusions of grandeur. Okay, sure, but he's not senile. But what he is a guy that he knows he fucked up, but he's one of those never admit, never apologize, whatever. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Look, I had to apologize for saying stupid stuff yesterday. You know what I mean? Why? Because I got to stay consistent, right? Why? Because I'm trying to lead by example. So when I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong. Even if I was a leader, I'd say, look, I fucked up here, But I would never make this kind of a fuck up, because it's like, but we're getting pressured from the, the State Department. You just, all you got to do, look, this is a revolutionary concept that most politicians don't understand. All you have to do is be honest. That's it. It's going to hurt. People will get mad at you. You'll say, look, here's what they're telling me. Okay. And if we go to war, here's what the result would be. Okay. Here's the deal. If we wait till they attack us, people will say, well, we knew the attack was coming, and why didn't you do anything about it? Right? Well, what we'll do is we'll try to thwart the attack. But we will not preemptively attack them, because that will guarantee them attacking us, right? You faffle, right? But the point I'm making is that, look, I'm watching Americans look up here, and like, again, I get it. There's the like the Carney can do no right or whatever and stuff like that. But they're looking at our other politicians too, like on the provincial level. Wab Kinew, okay, NDP. I would never vote for the guy, but I like the guy just as a human being. I think he's pretty entertaining. He's that happy-go-lucky native guy, right? And he just seems like a hell of a nice guy. He does. Now, do I agree with every one of his policies? No, but for NDP, like, if they put him in charge of the NDP instead of Yasmeet Singh, chances are he probably would have won he'd be our prime minister. Why? Just because he's such a likable guy, right? Like, he's basically, he seems reasonably fair for somebody that far on the left, right? But again, I got this American guy watching, goes, why can't we have politicians like this? And Wab Kinew was talking about 2 Palestinian children that are going to be treated in Canadian hospital. Now, my take on it is this. I don't mind helping these people over there, but we've got so many people over here that are dying waiting for treatment. Like, I get the pulling on the heartstrings and all that. You can call me cruel and mean and all that. I get that. But what I'm saying is that he's doing it and how he's doing it. Like, you watch Wab Kinew saying, look, we're going to help these people because we're Manitobans and we're Canadians. It's not their fault that they're in the situation. And they're right. It's not their fault that, they've been bombed out by Israel, right? And that, we're welcome to have you. Manitoba here's for you. The Manitobans are for you. And should you want to, when things settle down, should you want to leave, we're happy to let you leave. You know what I mean? But should you want to stay and become a part of Manitoba and help the next group of people, we'd love to have you too. A beautiful speech, everything like that. Yes, politically correct, whatever. Again, I'm anti-immigration, but even at that, even I got to say, well done, Mr. Canoe. You know what I mean? Because he basically shows leadership, pride in the country, compassion beyond belief. And again, he makes references to the residential schools and stuff like that. Sure, it's politicking and stuff like that, but it's done right. It's done from the oh my god, look at these Canadians. These people are fucking saints. You know what I mean? It's like, and you got this guy crying. He's like, but all of our politicians on the left and the right, they're so cruel. Like, look at this guy. You know what I mean? Why can't we have that? I'd be happy to send all the NDP down to the States. Just saying. I'm okay with that. Look, okay. Um, Look, I'm not opposed to helping people from but the problem is this. Okay, I remember there was a few years back. There was a girl, Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever. We flew her all the way over here, big PR, blah, 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 gave her a heart transplant or whatever. Okay, great. I'm glad the little girl made a full recovery and, whatever, children, right? But because of that, it bumped another little girl waiting for a heart, for a heart transplant who died, who was one of our own. You know what I mean? So like this is the cruelty of life, right? It's like, did you ever see the movie The Good Son? A little spoiler where the lady's holding the two boys over the cliff. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And she had to choose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, like that's the impossible situation. But the thing is that you wouldn't have to worry about that if Israel didn't bomb out Gaza. You know what I mean? Um, you know what I mean? Like, and again, you'd be able to, worst case scenario, help them over there. Okay. And I mean, people have made this thing like if we would help people over there, we'd probably like help our people first. But if we had enough left over, we could help them over there, and it'd be cheaper if we helped them in their own countries rather than flying them here and then have to put them on welfare. And, again, these people never pay into the system, blah blah blah. And again, the resources are finite. Like, I mean, you're not going to have we're not going to have healthcare in the near future just because you know it'll just be an impossibility to maintain it with all these people flooding in. And everybody knows that we're about to take in millions. Like, as soon as that Mediterranean water warms up a bit, you're going to be taking in millions and millions and millions of people from the Middle East, which is going to be instant culture clash because they're bringing their war here. Look, when I was a kid, I was like, what happens when you take refugee A and refugee B who've been fighting each other in the old country and bring them here? Oh, now we know, right? They bring their fucking bullshit with them, right? Not only that, just, the fact that the majority of the world is not compatible with the West. Nothing against those people from over there, but they need to stay in their own countries. We need to stay in ours. But look, the days of going around the world and just stealing everybody's resources. One good thing is Trump is just actually, went blatant with it. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, this is what we've always been doing it for. But, spoils of war. We're like, oh, you have a resource and you're not going to sell it in the currency we want you to sell it to? Well, we're going to go to war for you. You take our petrodollar, we drop democracy JDAMs on you. Right? And people are sick of that. Everywhere. There's nobody, like, the common guy does not want that. Only Zionists and evangelicals want that, right? And Jews. They're the only ones that want all this death and destruction. And the banking class and all that. It's the evil is to the point, like, look, the left thinks this whole war is about the Epstein files. It doesn't have anything to do with it. It really doesn't. And I'll tell you why. Because they're not afraid of the Epstein files. Why? Because there's no judge or lawyer or cop or military that's going to arrest anybody, right? We've known about this since Planet Ping Pong or whatever in Pizzagate with the Podesta files, right? That's what led to the Epstein files. We've known this since the Obama era. And what did all the Obama supporters? Oh, you're just a racist and a bigot, and Pizzagate wasn't real. You know what I mean? When there was witnesses, there's all again. Now you got stuff coming out about the Rothschilds and the Epstein files. You don't have to tell me how bad I could. Anything bad that's been said about the Rothschilds is probably 80% true. You know what I mean? Like, these people are fucking evil. Again, I don't know what happens when people hit a certain level of like power and income, when they just become so detached from the rest of the world, right? I think it was General MacArthur. MacArthur was saying the other night. Like when you got these people that never go through regular airport security and they just go out, flying around the world on Gulfstreams and Lear jets and shit. When they look down on the tarmac and they see like a jumbo liner there with the common goy just going in it, like that's like ants to them. Like it's like, oh, there's too many people on the planet. And again, Bill Gates is net zero. Like Agenda 21, Agenda 23, taking down the world's population. Bill Gates out there gloating by, if we do a really good job with vaccines, we can basically depopulate, like 500 million people. What does that mean? I mean? Like, this guy says it out loud. Like, you say, well, no, he's just a spastic, autistic guy that just says things and sounds strange. But then it's like, it's not. No, these people truly say, yeah, no, we're going to kill all these people, but we're going to do it humanely. The die with dignity, like all that stuff, made, what we got up here in Canada. It's absolutely fucking horrid. Like right now, MAID is voluntary. At some point, they're going to put it, like, it's going to be die with dignity by 75 or 65 or whatever. You had, Bill Gates making that case many times. Oh, perhaps rather than people wasting money on seniors, and stuff like that, maybe we should just, do like what they're doing in the Netherlands with the suicide pods, right? Like, again, it's fucking ridiculous, but yet here we are. It's dystopic, right? But anyway, I want to get on to what Trump was saying, the weird tangent he went off on. And was he saying the quiet part out loud? I don't know. Now, the Iranians have made many claims. Every night there's this one channel. You can't listen to it at all. It's like, oh, we sunk this aircraft there. We sunk it. And there's all this AI slop of like stuff that's just not happening. It's like I say, as soon as you hear an AI or figure out it's AI, and it's always a guy standing like this or whatever, or they're just like this, like their head never moves and they do this. That's the most, like they don't talk like a normal person, right? And it sometimes it's hard to tell whether it's AI or not, but usually just in the pacing of their words, you can usually tell that it's AI, right? And how they, again, if I watch another AI documentary on the Saab Gripen, it's like they like AI's not there yet. You know what I mean? There's certain words that just can't pronounce right, and it's just like and it calls it like 3 different things throughout the whatever. Okay, so AI slop, just either take it with a grain of salt or just that's why it's so hard to tell what's what. Like I mean, and then there's all these like kind of AI videos of people. You probably see them. It's like they're like kind of like fake rocket attacks. They're like, oh my god, look, I'm driving around and there's a rocket attack in front of me, and it's fake, right? And you can hear like all these voices. Oh my god, look at this, look at that. Like, okay, well, number one, it's Middle East. Why is everybody speaking English? With like a perfect Western accent. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, bullshit. But there is footage out there that is true. For example, yes, that F-18 or Super Hornet was hit by the because the guy, he did the high resolution on it, and he got to the bottom and said, yeah, the aircraft did get hit by a MADPAD launcher, but it didn't seem to have much of an effect. So maybe it just hit the tail or the blow nozzle or whatever. Like, it was like just enough to hit the aircraft, but not enough to knock it out of the sky. But I can guarantee you that Super Hornet's going to be down for maintenance. There's another video of an Israeli flying along in a fucking missile, just near missile on the missile, right? Like fighter jets, like if they fly in a straight line, they're going to get shot down, right? But they can evade missiles. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying the Iranian air defense systems are no good. I'm saying they're probably as good as they can be. You know what I mean? Like when the missiles are fired, okay, Missiles can maneuver fairly well. For example, you remember last year, I guess it was that Su-34 that was had to basically outrun a fucking Patriot missile, and it did it. Yeah, it did it. These the Russian pilots flying the Su-34 Platypus, aka the murder duck. And it's a cool airplane. I mean, I'm sure the Iranians would disagree. They would hate these things, because they're bombing them. But the airplane itself is kind of an interesting airplane for sure. A fighter bomber, whatever. But there the guy was full top speed, 1,200 miles an hour, fucking full afterburner, with this thing fucking tight on his tail, and he was able to jank past it, let it go the other way, and then with the help of the air ground, because the guy the Su-34, you can't see behind you, right? It's a the way it's not a glass cockpit, right? But if you could see it coming, like if you're in an F-22 or an F-18, an F-18 I think has one of the best visibilities next to probably the F-22. So you might even be able to, you're basically going to dogfight, do a ballerina dance in the sky against these missiles, right? Which, you could probably, once they go past you and they circle, like it takes them a second or two to circle around. By that time, you can try to stay out of their envelope until you run them out of, run the missile out of steam. But a lot of times, if they go past you, they lose lock, and then they're searching that way. And they, if you're lucky, they don't turn back, right? So yeah, point I'm making is that it's daily occurrences that these things are getting shot at. So it's only a matter of time before these highly fatigued pilots are going to fuck up and get whacked by a SAM. So no, the United States, Israel does not have, even with their bombing sorties that they've carried out, they do not have air superiority over Iran. Not even close. It's contested airspace. You can fire Manpad launchers, right? And stuff like Desert Storm, like you could basically fly right beside the tanker. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. You had to go up maybe 20,000 feet or whatever, 25,000 feet. Okay, refuel, whatever, and then go hit your target, come back to like you could basically fly beside the tanker and stay up there all day. You can't get the tankers anywhere near Iran, right? You can't. They'll get shot down right away. There's reports that some have been shot down. I know there's the collision one, but was there a collision or was it shot down? And we're never going to know the truth. Like I do believe that it probably was a collision, because you have to understand we don't know how much air defense the Iranians have. I'm assuming it's a lot. I'm assuming it's a lot just from the tunnel. Like if what you see in the tunnel is all they have, it's still a lot. You know what I mean? And MadPad launchers, they could have thousands of those, tens of thousands of those, right? Yeah, MadPads are not the best to shoot down aircraft, but sometimes just damaging them. Again, if you that F-35, I'm sure that's a parts plane now. That pilot apparently is making a full recovery, so that means that the airplane got hit bad enough that the pilot did sustain injuries. I mean, because you see it hit near the cockpit or whatever. And there's some people, oh, it's fake AI. But then, the Pentagon's like, no, you made a full recovery. So the airplane got hit. So an F-35 got shot at by some sort of an air defense system. The stealth aircraft that's invisible to radar, but yet it got shot. But that was on thermals. Well, okay, well then thermals is thermals. The downside to thermals is it's line of sight, right? But that means you're in a almost unmissable range, and it's just like I said about the F-35 for years. That big 1,600-degree blowhole at the back of the airplane stands out on radar. you know what I mean? And definitely on thermals, right? So it's the same with the F-22 and all that. Full afterburn, you might be at 2,000 degrees back there. Like things are going to hone in on you. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that we know that probably every, with all the sorties that are going on, just about every other night there's going to be aircraft shot at. So this is why you're seeing the carrier groups so far back, right? The Gerald Ford, there's a lot of people speculating who was clogging the toilets, you know, uh, stuff like that. Sure, um, but the thing is the ship is out of commission. Again, I'm amazed that the Iranians haven't hit it at port yet. Like maybe if it was just enough to offload the guys and okay, we got to get this thing back to the United States to fix it, because it's within the range of the Iranian missiles. You know what I mean? But here's the deal. So we know that the Iranians have made claims where they have fired at mainly the U.S. Basically Abraham Lincoln. There's been a lot of skirmishes with that aircraft carrier, and we know they did fire on the Gerald Ford at least once for that carrier group. But then you had Trump out there saying, "Hey, they had to pull back a bit because it's like we're seeing it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were seeing a jet leave the carrier deck every 32 seconds, right? Which is pretty impressive. Again, when you see aircraft in full operation, yeah, they can empty an aircraft carrier very, very quickly in minutes. It's amazing, right? But to keep that sustained, that's not very easy. You know what I mean? Why people get tired, people make fuck ups, crashes happen, blah blah blah. Anyway, we know that when the Houthis, who are now apparently getting into the fight, so we'll see what kind of damage they do in the Red Sea. I think they've already done like a rocket attack on Israel. Hezbollah, again, they're completely in it. They're like the IDF can't take Hezbollah right now. They're like, these guys are fucking kicking our ass. Again, Israel's fighting technically by their standards. The IDF is saying we're fighting a 9-front war, and our guys are like, they're overwhelmed. There's not enough of us. And again, instead of trying to stop the wars and all this, no. What we need is more conscripts. We need more. We need to draft the Ashkenazis. All these, Orthodox Jews. We need, they can't be exempt from the draft. How are you going to get one of those scrawny little pigtailed Orthodox Jew to go fight? You know what I mean? Yes, they'll carry around their M16s and whatever M4s and bully other Palestinians. Sure, they'll do that, but they won't go fight for Israel. It's against their sect of the Jews fight amongst themselves too. But yeah, but yeah. Again, do you really think you're going to get loyalty from those guys? Yeah, those guys will be fucking running from the battlefield so fast. Those are the tunnel Jews. You know what I mean? Those are the tunnel Jews. They're not going to, what are they going to do? Hurl a dead chicken at the fucking Iranians? It's like, yeah. Yakahim! Fucking throwing dead chickens at the fucking Iranians. Or the fucking... You see this little Ashkenazi Jew in his Merkava tank fucking loading, dead chickens and shooting at the fucking Lebanese. You got to make fun of some. I sit back and laugh at the chaos and all. But Trump is out there and said 1 o'clock in the morning, every 32 seconds, something was going on the U.S. Gerald Ford. The fucking airplanes are taking off the deck, right? And then they said there was 17. They shot them all down. Now, was it drones? Was it cruise missiles? I don't know. But they said they had to fucking bug out of the area because they were coming in from all directions. There were 17 of them. And you know what? I don't know if this is just a Trump having one of those, free brain moments where he just, blurts the quiet part out loud, because he does do that a lot too. But he's a chronic liar as well. Now, maybe he's saying that because it's again, the one thing about a psychopath is they get fucked up on their lies, right? It's no, there was no attack, But again, the thing is whether this is true or not. Where people are Okay, well, if that was the truth, why weren't the Iranians like, hey, we did this. We fired 17 missiles at them and scared them off, right? Which I don't know if I believe it, and I'll tell you why. Because again, like I was saying yesterday, the CRAM. Okay, when the cruise missile is 100 miles away and you can detect it, you can fire missiles. Okay, and you're going to fire three, so 3 times 17. We'll even say two. We'll say 34 missiles were in intercept. Okay, so that's pretty much a load of an Ollieberg, and there might be 8 Olliebergs in a carrier group, something like that. Whatever there would be, you know what I mean? Plus, frigates and stuff like that. Okay, so we'll say they got them all with that. So, okay, the Iranians be like, okay, they intercepted everything. We'll just say we didn't. Well, because it's a defeat for them, right? So they'll just keep quiet about it. Okay, maybe that's the case. Okay, well, we tried, but we missed. We want people to, we don't want to let people know. We want to let people know of our successes, not our failures, right? Okay, so you could say the Iranians would keep that quiet. But that said, you chased off the aircraft carrier. That's a victory for the Iranians, right? Okay, fair enough. And we do know that the carrier groups were moved back very, very far. That part is real. And again, we do know that there have been attacks on these carrier groups for sure, even if not successful. There is speculation that the Lincoln was hit. Because there's looks like again, it's hard to find it, and it's hard to really tell, but it does look like the rear of the ship was hit by something. Maybe it was a drone or whatever. But if this is true, okay, then that tells you that the carrier groups are obsolete. So it's a lose-lose situation for the Americans, no matter what they do here. Because it's like, it means the number one largest aircraft carrier and most advanced aircraft carrier ever built in human history cannot stay in the fight because it will get destroyed, right? It's a numbers game. So the next time they fire 34, you know what I mean? Like, now that said, at what range did they detect these things? Because the problem with anti-shipping missiles is they fly like 20 feet above the surface. You don't detect them until they're almost in unmissable range. That means at that point, you're probably not going to be able to use the PAC-3 or the PAC-6 missiles, Sea Sparrows or whatever they're using, Sea Phoenix or whatever they're using to shoot down these missiles. They're too close. Tracking them, locking in, like even with the automation, it's probably too close. At that point, you're at naval deck guns and CRAMs, right? Which we talked about, R2-D2 with a minigun, right? Bursting out 4,500 rounds a minute. And you got 20 seconds of ammo, right? So if 20 seconds of ammo can give you about 5 kills, that is too close for comfort. Now, the aircraft carriers do have their own self-defenses. They got CRAMs all around the aircraft. I don't know if they have 6 of them or 8 of them or whatever, plus deck guns and stuff like that. Well, under the deck, but we'll call them port guns or whatever, to shoot down incoming drones and missiles and stuff like that. So yes, the aircraft carriers do have that capability of, saving themselves as well. But that said, it's such a big object, right? How'd you miss it, right? So why would Trump say something like that if it makes the U.S. Aircraft carrier groups look vulnerable? And why would the Iranians not take credit for it if that's how they were driving off the, so like, again, if like I say, the Iranians, if they send 100 cruise missiles in there at a time, like I say, they'll get the guys on the reload. You know what I mean? What distance was the aircraft carrier at when this happened? Was it like, okay, well, we're within the range that we could send out that much. Okay, no, they're pulling back. Okay, well, don't waste any more cruise missiles because they'll just, would you just, But now there's a line that can't be crossed for the carrier groups because if they get in too close, they're toast. Maybe 10 kilometers or 6 miles in closer is unmissable range. Like, we don't know where unmissable range is. Where it's like, okay, just send 100 cruise missiles and drones at a time. you'll hit, there's only 27, 28 ships in a carrier group. You're going to hit something, right? You're going to hit something. So if that's the case, then it kind of feeds into more of that, maybe that dryer, like again, the laundry room fire. Maybe the toilet thing was self-sabotage, but the laundry room fire might have been a cruise missile hit or a drone hit, right? So it's like, because we don't know what started the laundry room fire that apparently burnt for a day or 2 days or 3 days or whatever it was to put out. A fire on a ship, it doesn't matter the ship. That's definitely where you don't want to have a fire. There's so many, what is it? Like basically an aircraft carrier is full of like, natural gas lines and oil and all kinds of stuff like that. Like, all these pressure tanks. And then, of course, you've got a nuclear reactor on there. And then bombs, missiles, ammo, like just, gasoline. And I'm sure somebody has a bottle of bourbon that's going to fucking, finish off the ship when it burns, right? Yeah, so fire on a ship is just the toxins burning off, like isolating the ship, evacuating so that people don't die from again, when you get a reactor meltdown on one of these ships, that's it. Everybody's dead. You know what I mean? Like, so if that's the case, you've already lost the war. Why? Because without the carrier groups, and this is why you're like, okay, yes, you're still getting a lot of, like a lot of airstrikes per night, right? But most of those are from the drones. Like yes, the aircrafts are using the drones to target stuff and then fire like, loitering munitions and stuff like that, using that, and then in combination with standoff munitions. Sure, but we're not at the JDAM level yet per se. Maybe some places in Iran they could fly an F-18 there. And, okay, there's no air defense here. We can use the JDAM, right? But there's not too many places that they can do that, because you're either going to be shot at with a MADPAN launcher, or you're going to be shot at with like if you fly too low, you're going to be shot at with a MADPAN launcher. But if you fly too high, you're going to get taken out by the long-range air defense systems. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So how many drones have been shot down? To me, it looks like the U.S. and the Israelis have kind of had to slacken off on a lot of their, like, because the bolstering isn't there. Oh, well, we flew this many sorties and whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, but what are you hitting? Okay, empty buildings. You know what I mean? Like what? Like hummus trucks. Like for the amount of rocket trucks, again, the Iranians are still. You haven't hit anything critical on them to stop their means of making war. Like that's part's very clear. So I think there's two angles here. The one angle is Trump lied again and again and again, just flip flopping with his lies. Where no, they never attacked the U.S. Gerald Ford. It's not happened. To now it's happened, and there was 17. They had to dodge 17, cruise missiles or drones coming from multiple different angles. Okay, so which is it? They were attacked or they weren't, or why? Okay, there's one major thing, and this is probably an even scarier thing for the U.S. And the U.S. people, because if this is true. Like I say, you're close to a military coup. Again, Trump is probably, I don't think he lives past July or August anyway. I'm not making any threats, but if the CIA doesn't kill him, the Mossad doesn't kill him, the Iranians don't kill him, the Russians don't kill him, the Venezuelans don't kill him, the Chinese don't kill him. I mean, he's destroyed pretty much every fucking economy on the planet right now. This is one of those Agatha Christie novels right now. Like, was it like this is like the game clue? Was a Professor Plum in the library with the pipe wrench? I don't know. But this guy's made. Is it going to be I'm still saying it's going to be a U.S. veteran sniper that's going to take him out. That's the indicators is something like that because of how angry the U.S. veterans are, especially the guys that voted for him. Right, so it might be a MAGA guy killing him. You know what I mean? And again, you have to understand, you're going to see it probably over there first, where suddenly all of a sudden the royal family is like, being shot at as they're running to their Learjet with their gold, suitcases full of gold or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're about to see like Muammar Gaddafi is the future of the world elites. That's why all these the European Union are coming up with these anti-migration laws now. These people like, oh, we have to have all this, these migrants and replacement migration and all that. Now they're like, we have to have ways to deport the non-complying migrants because they know they're about to the populace is going to freak out when 1 million people a month come into the like the Jews are going to get slaughtered. Again, even if the domestic population doesn't do anything about it, you're bringing in all these Arabs that hate them. Like again, these people are like they reap what they sow. The Israelis, Jews, like they're blinded by their own hate and rage and stuff like that, and they're just like at this point you can't save them from themselves. You know what I mean? They're incapable. And this plays out over and over and over in history. That's why we're in the 110th expulsion of the Jews. I've been telling you that since 2010. The 10th Crusade really kicks off in 2015, right? It's now you're seeing it doesn't look like the Ninth Crusade. That's the only difference, But we know who opened the gate at Toledo. We know who brought in all the migrants. We know who started all these forever wars to get the migrant crisis going. We know who's funding it. We know who owns all these big ships that go back and forth bringing in migrants, right? It's always the same players. Yeah, I digress. But is the story of 17 missiles or drones attacking the U.S. Gerald Ford, making it retreat, a better story than, hey, half the sailors revolted, they lit the laundry room on fire, and they clogged the toilets with, shirts and mop heads, right? That's the story, right? What I'm waiting for is the guys that go on leave and spill the beans. And yes, I was on the Gerald Ford, and now what people are speculating, now I don't know if this is true, but I can see it. They said there's a lot of African American women in the U.S. military. We know that, and a lot of them, once they get in, they tend to go on, like maternity leave, like chronic maternity leave. They just, because they get it's a cushy job, right? Like a U.S. service person on family leave is going to make a lot of money. You see this in the government too. Like there's always that lady that's, always pregnant, right? Because she's forever on maternity leave. Which I'm not against maternity leave. I'm not. But there's people that milk the system too, is what I'm saying. So, Vietnam, World War II, okay. I'm getting on the USS Enterprise, going to the South Pacific to fight the Japanese. I might be on the ship for 2 years. Okay, fine. You know what I mean? Doing my duty. Silent generation, great generation, grandfathers, yeah, they're not even going to question what the sacrifice is going to take, right? We're going to do that. Vietnam, okay, yeah. Aircraft carrier, what was the battleship aircraft carrier? You guys remember that one? That thing was fucking cool. Kind of a good idea, bad idea, but like a feat of modern engineering. We'll just say that. But that one, And then, of course, you had the Forstall, which was now known as the Forest Fire. That was John McCain, just so you know that guy. I hope he's burning in hell. It was him that fired that rocket that fired off. He was off his aircraft that actually killed so many sailors, and yet the guy gets promoted as that. But they said what it was like that. That's the story they went with. But they said what it was is he was like doing a flame out, and it just started the fire. He was showing off, and basically killed everybody. So, and then he becomes senator, right? Anyway, yeah, that guy's, again, him and Lindsey Graham will, I'm sure they were faggot buddies for sure. But anyway, the amount of evil those men do. But the thing is that, yeah, if it was a mutiny, an actual, okay, look, we can't keep the aircraft carrier going. They're starting to destroy the fucking thing. Who would be the most likely candidates? Is it going to be Farm Boy Joey with the blue eyes? No. No, the white kid is just going to follow orders. That's just that just is what it is, right? The minorities, are they willing to die for Israel? Probably not as much. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it was them, but if I had to guess who's stuffing the mop heads and t-shirts down, that's probably them. You know what I mean? But who knows? Who knows, right? Who knows? That's the speculation that's out there now. So we'll just take that as complete speculation. But either way, if there's a mutiny on a ship, there's mutiny on a ship. Like, look, the amount of requests for exemption for this war is like off the chart. Like just people getting lost on their way to college. Why? Because Trump said the reason why people raced to join the military was because Trump won the presidency. He was the anti-war president, right? No more new wars. He went on for years about how horrible these forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were and how much of a disaster they were. Only to betray everybody that, like all these people were like, fuck, I just wanted a college degree. Well, if you want a college degree, you know what I mean? Number one, going to college is not really worth it unless you're taking engineering or something that has a real job equivalent. 90% of most college courses are like just debt. Like there's no, like anything in the humanities, don't waste your time. It's like up here in Canada, like every college student that just to get in, child youth worker. I'm going to become a child youth. And I was like, I remember asking the counselor. I said, look, I have all my friends in this child youth worker program. Like, oh yeah, I said, how many child youth workers are in the city of Ottawa right now? Like, what is like? I know what the program's about, but like how many job equivalents? The lady laughed at me. She goes, well, I'll be honest with you, there's three. There's three, and every goes, well, it's a prerequisite to get in. It's the easiest program to get in. You take it for 6 months, and then you can get into, or you take that while you're waiting to get into, your second semester. It's a cash grab, is what it was, right? But at the time, it was like $800 for the course. You would live through it. Then you could go into something more important. But now it's like like woke studies. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're trying to make as many woke jobs in the government as possible, but like again, it's not sustainable stuff. Like that's what cutting into our healthcare and all that, right? But it's also, like, like all these people with college debt. Like I get it. You sign the military. You get a free college and technical trades and stuff like that. But you have to understand you're signing into a military first. So I have no oh my God, they were duped. No, if you couldn't understand that when you signed in, sure, I get it. You're 18 years old. You might not be the smartest tool and the sharpest tool in the shed. I get that, but you should be fucking smart enough to realize that if a war breaks out, you're going. That should be your number one consideration of the military. Not, oh, I'm going to get a college degree. Oh, I'm going to get no. Your number one when you join the military, it doesn't matter which military, whether it's Canadian military, there should be an understanding that if a war breaks out, you're going. Right? That's one thing you never had a problem with too much with the Canadian military. It's like, well, I joined to, get a college degree. Oh, war broke out? Well, looks like I'm going to war then. Like, just, you know what I mean? Because, like, I don't know. It's just, I guess, the way they promote it. And they say, oh, well, the recruiters, they lie to people to get them recruited. It's, okay, yeah, whatever. But are you that gullible? Like, are you really that stupid? But then again, if you're really that stupid, do we really want you fighting in the military? You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm not mocking here, but like that is the situation. So if you have people that got lost on their way to college, sitting in a war zone where there's fucking 17 cruise missiles zipping by your aircraft, I can see somebody clogging the toilets. I can see something. I can see where it comes from. You know what I mean? And again, that's what happens when you do diversity hiring. That's what happens when you do. Lowering the standards, that's what happens when you lie to people. Like, no, you're going to die, like the French Foreign Legion, okay? There's not a single guy fighting in the French Foreign Legion that isn't a fucking homicidal maniac. Why? Because they know when you go into the French Foreign Legion, you're not going there to be a peacekeeper. You're going there to fucking murder people. They know this. They've known this for a fucking 100 years. The French Foreign Legion, like, what a history that is. It's basically all mercenaries. Wagner Group, okay? Wagner Group. When you join Wagner Group, you know that you're going to you're joining up to kill people. and get paid. That's it. That's why you have Wagner Group. Oh, okay. They used to be called BlackRock. Now they're called. I guess it's like the bankers wanted BlackRock, so it's like, okay, well, we'll be called BlackRock. You get called BlackRock. The faculty now, right? Eric Prince, that guy. Again, fucking mercenary war criminal. You have him on. You have him. Like again, Tim Pool. Oh no, well, the BlackRock faculty guys are misunderstood. Okay, there was a handful of bad guys that were just driving around in Humvees shooting Iraqis. Remember that footage, right? Crimes against humanity. Did anybody go to jail? No. Did Eric Prince go to jail? No. They just changed the name of the company, for PR sake. That's it. Why? They're mercenaries. You join BlackRock or the faculty, you're going to murder people. You're not going there, what I mean, for any other reason. You're going as a hired gun. The difference is the regular military, okay, for NATO and stuff like that, even NATO is kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're not jumping in on this war. We love war. We love getting our people killed because, especially when the majority of them are white dudes, right? It's like, yeah, great. Like that's Hispanics make up the number two in the military ranks. They're the fastest growing of the military ranks is Hispanics, right? Because they're kind of taking over half the United States, right? But the thing is like, how dedicated are they going to be, like all these Hispanics, when Donald Trump starts bombing Mexico? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, again, you can't have a multicultural military. You can't. It won't hold, unless it's the French Foreign Legion, where it's just a bunch of mercenaries. But the thing is that is Trump lying again just because, they don't want that? That is a bigger threat to the U.S. military than anything. Is people, like revulsion, basically a coup. We're not, like a big, massive standout. Because the word on the grapevine, the chattering is, again, nobody will step forward and say it out loud because, they'll get court-martialed, right? But there does seem to be that there's a lot of generals and commanders and captains and stuff like that saying, no, we're not going through the Strait of Hormuz with our ships. This is why Trump is out there calling everybody a coward for not putting, like the British, oh, you cowards, you won't put your destroyer, you're going to keep it over in the Mediterranean where it's safe. You're not going to go through the, like you're getting oil out of the Middle East too. You should be you should be joining us in this war. You're not supporting us. And again, when the history of Donald Trump, calling our soldiers cowards, that we stay way, way off the front lines, dismissing our war dead, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to come to the aid, and then we don't need you anyway. Well, why are you fucking asking us if you don't need us, right? Like it's like the guy doesn't know what to do at this point. He's a deer in headlights, but it makes him dangerous because look, the insolvency that the Israelis want, and people say, no, the Israelis wouldn't want this because it'd backfire on them. They're insane. Yes, they want this. They want to nuke Iran, right? They're just the general population. They don't care about taking out the missiles and stuff like that. They'll endure that. But what they can't endure is the Iranian Empire surviving, right? So they need the United States to start to use their nuclear weapons, and Israel's going to use its nuclear weapons. But the second they do, like the Iranians are going to hit, they don't even have to have nuclear weapons. All they got to do is take out the Dimona nuclear power plant, and people will be dead before they can leave the country. Like you're about to see 7 million. I'm sure it's going to kill a lot of Lebanese and all the people in the West Bank and all that, and Palestinians and stuff like that. But they might be willing to take the sacrifice if they know it's going to kill mostly Israelis. You take out the nuclear power plant in Dimona, radiation poisoning is going to be the number next to. The question will be: will people die of radiation sickness before they die of dehydration? That's the question, right? Because when the Dimona plant gets taken up by the Iranians, so will the water desalination plants in the Middle East. You're about to see like 500 million people die of thirst. They're not even going to be able to walk through the desert or take convoys, like they're not going to get out. Like you won't be able to evacuate these people before they die. 3 minutes without air, the average person dies. 3 days without water, the average person dies. 3 weeks without food, the average person dies. They're not going to live long enough to starve to death once those desalination plants go down because they only got about 3 days of water. Now the problem is that's 3 days of water in say like Canada temperatures. You know what I mean? Like how much does somebody have to drink in the Middle East to stay alive on a regular day? You know what I mean? Especially when you're going into the warmer season. Like, yeah, we're going to see a massive depopulation of the world in that region. And the refugees that make it to Europe, they're going to war right away. Why? Because white man bad, right? You guys killed us on behalf of the Jews. And trust me, it doesn't matter if Mark Carney's out there saying I'm staying at it, or Starmer's like flip-flopping, I'm in it, I'm not in it, whatever. Or Macron, well, we're going to put our carrier group in the region to protect our assets and only our assets, and that's it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They see us all as one. The West is the West. The West is the great Satan to the Muslims. That's and the House of Islam is going to rise up against. We're going to see terror attacks up here in Canada, just like you're going to see in the States. We're already seeing it. Like you're already seeing the Jews getting attacked in Canada, right? Wait till the weather gets warm. Like right now, like people don't realize, like there's like still 2.5 feet of snow in front of my house here. Like and then not the stuff coming off the roof, but just on the regular ground. There's still 2.5 feet of snow in most places, right? I'm sure the city streets are pretty much cleared by now, but it's still like minus 10, 15 in the morning, right? But wait till it's like you wake up in the morning and it's plus 8 out. Okay, you're going to start to see the protesters. That's why they're bringing in these anti-protesting laws, because they're going to protest Jews, right? Like that's always for them. Like, look, you blow up 3 ambulances in the UK that are Jewish owned, only for the Jewish community. You take 4 from the Goy and replace them right away. But the Jews have no institutional power, right? Like, oh yeah, that's just a trope. Yeah. Anyway, and again, I don't hate all of them, but it's just like I understand like how they function as a group. I understand there's outliers. There are good Jewish people out there. I have no doubt about that. There's good Iranian people out there. I have no doubt about that. But in general, these people need to be just fucking isolated into the Middle East. Maybe just build a fucking wall around New York State and say, okay, you know what, leave them in there. These people can't function in fucking regular society without trying to kill everybody. There's something wrong with the breed. But the problem is they drag everybody else in it. And this is a world war. Look, when my gas prices in Canada are going up because of the fuck-ups of the U.S., and when the New Zealanders are out of gas because they can't get it anymore, and you've got, Bush Barbie out there, I don't know if you've seen her, talking about how to save gas. She's funny. She's a funny girl. Like, she'd be an awesome wife, I'm sure. But she's like, pretty much, yeah, okay, take the boat out, take the boat out only once. If you're gonna have an affair, either pick the wife or the mistress. Don't do 2 in a day. Yeah, the Australians, I think they're gonna be fine. But yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, how the fuck does this war affect New Zealand? You know what I mean? And if it's going to hit New Zealand, can you imagine what it's doing to like Tasmania and Papua New Guinea? Just watch for the wars that are going to spark up there. The Philippines, they're running out of fuel. Everybody's got like days or weeks of fuel left. Now, Canada, we're going to have disruptions. There's no doubt about that, because we get oil from Saudi Arabia too. Believe it or not, we do get foreign gas and oil. That's more of like a logistics thing rather than an actual supply issue. It's actually cheaper and quicker to bring the oil. I know I don't agree with it, from Norway into Quebec and Labrador and Newfoundland and some of the maritime provinces. It's easier to actually get the oil from the Middle East, right? Well, to me, I'm saying we need to go to talk to the premier of Newfoundland and say, how about that Hibernia plant? Oh, it's $130 a barrel or whatever to keep that sucker open. Okay, well, how about this guarantee? We'll use it as domestic product, and when oil is like $1,500 a barrel from the Middle East, we'll be at like 250 a barrel, but the tankers can pull right up beside the the rigger, and again, I don't know if the Hibernia plant is still running. I haven't researched it in years, but what I mean. We got the oil on each end of the country, right? Like Quebec, the problem with Quebec is the politicians of hold the resources down. But we probably got more oil than Alberta. You know what I mean? I know we have a lot of oil here. It's just like again. We have a really fucked up because of the sovereignty bullshit, right? It's like the rest of Canada is holding us back. Therefore, they hold back the resource development just to make that claim, right? Because if they started doing that, so, well, Canada's not holding you back. You're energy independent. And I mean, we're basically hydroelectric independent. We're powering half the United States, for fuck's sakes. You know what I mean? Ontario alone powers like 6 million homes and businesses and stuff like that. And now we're about to see a massive steel shortage, which is going to be good for us industry-wise up here in Canada in a lot of ways, but it's going to be disruptive as well. Just because people are going to demand more of us doesn't mean we can just, automatically increase the supply chain. That doesn't happen overnight. That takes months. Look, pop cans. When Trump did the fucking tariff war, pop cans. We were buying our pop cans from the United States. Now, it took Doug Ford months to remedy that, but now we're going to be like one of the world's #1 supplier of pop cans. Aluminum pop cans. Who knew, right? Recycling is going to become a big thing in the future. There's no doubt about that. And that's a good thing. But what I'm saying is that everybody's going to get hit. Look, our gas prices are going up ridiculous, and we're relatively energy. We're like a net exporter of energy. You know what I mean? And now there's 20% of the world's energy is offline. And all the things that are going to go with that. The tourism hit that's going to be. Why? Because now you can't get airliners in the air. People are going to have tourism in the same way. That's going to trickle down the economy. And it's going to, like the United States is just, and Israel have just collapsed the global economy. Probably going to go, some countries are going to go into irrecoverable Mad Max depressions, right? And again, it's what the world elites want so that they can issue their digital CBDCs and so on. But that's going to go down too because, look, I know some people disagree with me on the crypto thing. The crypto thing, yes, make money while you can, but don't make that your nest egg because I can guarantee you when the rolling blackouts start coming in because of the natural gas, you're just not going to be able to get you're not going to be able to get your money. And I understand a lot of people. That's how they're going to get that's how they're getting their wealth out of the country when they're to get around bank runs, right? Bank holidays, where you can only we look in Argentina. Okay, Javier Milei, look, he may have fixed one problem, but he created 1,000 others. This, we're gonna, basically balance the budget overnight. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Like you're just basically putting all these people out of work and creating all the prices. And then again, what they're doing in Argentina is basically using cryptos to empty their bank accounts, right? Because they can only take out like $100 a day or something like that, or $200 a day max. So if you got tens of thousands of dollars in your account, or you need like $900 a day to live, I don't know who'd be that wealthy, but there are people, right? You can't do it because of that. So yes, converting your money into something else to get it out of there. The thing about the crypto, yes, it can cross borders much faster than and safer and easier than a suitcase full of cash. But once you get to where you're going, cash will be king. Look, cyber attacks are going to be a wave coming in. They're already happening. Yes, it's probably the North. And again, you have to understand, China and North Korea are going to be helping as well. Russia's going to be helping as well. It is a global war. You're seeing the kinetic side of it. And like a lot of people just measure the kinetic side. You now have to factor in the economic side and how much more damaging. The Iranians inflicted way more damage economically than they ever did with the rockets so far. Like, it's not even close. You know what I mean? $600 billion lost in tourism.
or $600 million lost in tourism. Name me one rocket strike that did that. Well, okay, sorry, lie. Yeah, okay, yeah, the $1.2 billion radar. Okay, yeah, but that's only a handful. But it's that on top of on top of on top. You know what I mean? It's like, and again, the Iranians only fired maybe 3,000, hit 3,000 targets. We hit 90,000 buildings. Yeah, but what was the effect? The Iranians they're not just firing willy nilly. Like the Israelis and the Americans are just firing, for numbers. We're hitting the widgets. You know what I mean? We're hitting like again a C-130 sitting on the ground for 20 years. An F-14 that hasn't flown since 1982. You know what I mean? Decoys, whatever it is. Again, they're hitting the stuff that's just not relevant. Okay, yeah, they are getting some relevant. Some of these rocket launchers, yes. But there's thousands of these things. You know what I mean? They're not taking out the caves. The bunker busters are useless. And they're, 15, 20, $60,000 a bomb. Like, I mean, it's a JDAM used to be about $20,000, and probably you're talking about $12,000 to $30,000 an hour to deliver the damn thing. You know what I mean? An F-35 in the air for 10 hours is probably 300 grand. Not to mention the ordnance. Not to mention all the other stuff supporting it, the AWAC, the satellites, the United States, I think, just passed $40 trillion, maybe $41 trillion in debt, in a month. So yes, they're collapsing the global system. They're going to blame it on Trump and whatever. People will just be, it's one guy. It's just this one guy. No, it's all of them. When they take out Trump and JD Vance takes over, or whoever, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the same. They're all answering to the Adelson money. You know what I mean? They're all answering to the Zionist regime. They're all answering to Netanyahu. They're all answering to all the people he answers to, right? These globalist bankers, the Rothschild banking system, the BlackRock, the Vanguard, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all these evil fucking banking systems, right? Who all these people like Kushner and stuff they're making billions of dollars. I think they've made $580 million. The Trump family's made like $580 million alone off of this little fucking marketing scheme they got going on so far. All of them. Eric Trump, he's great, he's awesome. Nah, he's fucking you over too. They're all fucking you over, to the tunes of billions, right? They're all bad guys. Oh, but Joe Biden he was bad guy too. It's mob bosses fighting, and we have to survive that as little guys. And guys, it's not going to be easy. So stock up now, because the shortages that are going to come from when the natural gas goes down, okay, so does the fertilizer, right? Like, the farmers are already saying, we don't know what we're eating 2025's crop now. There might not be a 2027 crop. You know what I mean? Will the United States go to war with us to steal our fertilizer? Possibly. Again, we don't know how lunatic this is going to get. The world elites, they want to kill everybody so that you're so distracted fighting each other that we don't fight them, right? Henry Kissinger, if they're fighting each other, they're not fighting us, right? But it's true, right? But anyway, we'll see what kind of chaos tomorrow brings. But guys, we're in it. The stuff that all of us prepper types have been warning about for years. Welcome to the show. We're there. It's not coming. It's there. The internet's going to go down fairly soon, within probably the next couple of months, I would imagine. Maybe sooner. Depends on the cyber attacks. It might be rolling blackouts. Information is already throttled. With all the hate speech laws coming in, it's going to get worse. So at some point, you just have to understand, you're going to have to take that leap of faith of trying to figure out how to survive. Because the mainstream media can't tell us the truth. The militaries will never tell us the truth. Doesn't matter which one. And you don't want to get killed in the crossfire of all this ridiculousness. The tribal, 10th Crusade wars, they're going to kick up, and we're at the point where it's going to be tribal or die, right? Because, the protests that are going to be coming, again, we're going to see probably, parts of the U.S. military go into revolt, right? Again, it's who wants to die for Israel? You know what I mean? At least with Desert Storm and stuff like that, they were able to convince the soldiers that they were fighting for women and children and democracy, even though they used the A-10s on the highway of death to mainly kill 10,000 civilians. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing how long it's taken people to kind of, okay, well, we killed 1.5 million to 2 million Viet Cong, okay? On the name of women and children and democracy and freedom and liberty. What's the joke they got? Bombing will commence until freedom improves, right? But it's like Team America freedom, where it's like we just killed half your fucking civilians in in a bombing strike, and we're liberating you. You know, it's sick. It's beyond sick. One last thing, yeah. B-1s and B-2 Lancers. Okay, there was a report of a B-52 making an emergency landing, not damaged, but just probably maintenance related. And same thing with B-1s. There's been, I think, 2 of them so far that have been. But with the B-1s, I don't know. The one, I think, it had to turn back with bombs attached. Same with the B-52, it had to turn back with bombs attached. Now you have to understand these aircrafts. The B-1 looks pretty sleek with its nice black paint job, whatever. But you have to understand these airplanes. The newest one is built in like the late 70s. And then for B-52s, these things are 70 years old. You're going to have B-52s flying with a full bomb load at one point, and just the wing snaps off just from metal fatigue from being out there. Like, these things have been serving for 70 years. It went through many modifications and stuff like that. And B-52s, again, another aircraft that if you've ever climbed through one, they're quite impressive. If you've ever seen one fly, when they do those like fake bombing runs there at the air shows, it's pretty cool. Very, very, very interesting aircraft. Whatever. But these bomb trucks, that's going to be the war's going to end with those, because once all the tankers are gone, once the aircraft carriers are so far out of range that look, the average pilot now has to fly a minimum of 1,000 miles to reach its target, when your internal range is only 600 miles, right? And to keep guys on station, so that as soon as a target is found, you can hit it right away. The amount of tankers, like, again, the United States is going to run out of tankers. If you've lost a dozen tankers or more in about a month, you've got 10 months of tankers max. And I think like that's going to, with the radars going down, like, these tankers are going to have to be like staged in Europe, which means even more fuel and cost and a longer range. Once the tankers are gone and the heavy lift aircraft are gone, the war's pretty much over. The aircraft, and if you take out the aircraft carriers, the only thing that'll be able to fly these are Lancers. Fly the missions will be Lancers and B-52s. That's it, pretty much. Maybe you might be able to have an F-15 or an F-22 escort if you could save enough tankers to get you halfway across the Atlantic. But it'll be like P-51s and B-17s, where halfway through the flight, the P-51 escort is gone, and then the 109s come out. You know what I mean? Can you imagine? Like the F-15s, they can detect a bunch of MiG-29s just waiting up, like 100 miles out of range, but then they're like bingo fuel. They have to go back, because the air, there's no tankers. They got 3 drop tanks. They have enough. They can only make it so far, and then they have to turn back, waving at those B-52 crews. Well, good luck, guys. Godspeed. Might not see you again. And then here comes the onslaught of MiG-29s. Like, fuck. Or even more ironic, can you imagine this? Okay, F-4 Phantom, internal range, 1,200 miles. B-52s, 600 miles out. Okay, put 1 drop tank, you got just enough range to fly your 30 F-4 Phantoms and maybe 4 or 5 remaining F-14s to fire the Phoenix missiles, reverse engineered, AIM-54s, basically, American missiles. firing them 100 miles from bingo fuel into an onslaught of B-52 bombers, just burning from the sky, coming down. Like the Ho Chi Minh Trail, okay, when they were bombing that, they lost 10 B-52s in one day. And those suckers were bombing from like 50,000 feet. You know what I mean? So that was Vietnam, okay? Can you imagine, like basically losing all 1,500 B-52s, which I think there's only like 150 of them left in service. The rest are probably all cannibalized for parts. Maybe they have 5 of them in mothball or whatever, but it won't matter. Like they're just not going to be the task for the job. And once they have no escort, the war's over. You know what I mean? Because you'll never get within bombing range of Iran. And we're getting to the point where the harder it gets for the United States and Israel to keep bombing, which they're going to be bombing for at least 2 months more. The Israeli Air Force is going to take a long time before they can get all those aircraft wiped out. There's about 300 of those, F-15s and F-16s and whatever they have left. You know what I mean? I don't think the Israelis are going to pull out old F-4 Phantoms. They might have to, just because of the range problem, right? They have to bring out these longer range, older aircraft, but they're less capable, right? Can you imagine F-4 Phantom, Israeli F-4 Phantoms taking on Iranian F-4 Phantoms? That'd be the most confusing dogfight, right? But you never know. Again, the Iranians, they can save these fighters in the tunnels because they're really obsolete. They really don't need them, because why send out a fighter jet when you can just fire a missile? You know what I mean? But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. So anyway, guys, I think the troops that are landing there, they're going there for body extraction and, like getting people out of the embassies and stuff like that. If they are insane enough, and again, I hear military vet after military vet say this, like we really don't think they're going to be that crazy. But you're talking about neocons. They're insane. They're not crazy. They're insane. They truly believe they don't care. Like, trust me, the Israel. Like, look, this massive ground force attack on Karg Island that Trump talks about. Excuse me. Okay, you know who's not going to be there? Israel. Like, the Israelis are going to let the Goy go fight and die. Like, this is their war, but they're not going to send a single fucking troop to back it. Oh, well, we can't, we can't lose a single guy. We're already stretched. We got 9 fronts. We can't find it. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, okay, no, America, you have to go and die. Your sons and daughters have to go and die on those beaches. And it would be a slaughter fest, guys. Like, there's no doubt about that. Like, would they do it? Like, do they really truly believe that they're going to get the rally around the flag if you slaughter 10,000 Americans landing on beaches? Like, and the thing is the Iranians are going to let you come. Like, the ambassador said it best. No, we're waiting for you. Like, they're going to let they'll put up, like, say, like a really piss poor resistance, just enough to look like they're like the Americans. Oh, look at this. We just made it right past the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's a nothing burger. They can't do anything. They can't stop us. Oh, their drones never got our... They're going to let you go in. Why? Because I want the targets. Like, if I'm a military planner, I'm like, let them in. Let them in. Like, but let them in, but they're never going out, because I would want to kill all those troops to deter the next batch of troops, right? Because it's like, okay, well, if you like vaporize all the American soldiers, you're talking about there's still like 30, 40,000 Americans in the Middle East that are trapped there in motels and stuff because they can't go on the bases. Why? Because the bases are getting fucking vaporized. I don't think there's a U.S. base that's properly functioning to the point where it's not getting hit on a regular basis. This is why you keep hearing, like, every other day, you get satellite footage of, and it takes about a week to get the satellite footage of, like, all these, like, aircraft getting destroyed on the ground, especially the heavy lift stuff and the supporting role stuff. So what, a bunch of Black Hawk helicopters going to fly across into Iran without getting shot down? No, I don't think so. I think there's been a way overestimation of capability of Israel and the United States, and a super, super underestimation of capabilities of Iran, right? Like, again, I'm not sitting there cheerleading for Iran. I'm just telling you what they're doing, right? But there's another angle here that you got to keep in mind, that the Israelis, the Jews, do not care about how many Americans they're going to get killed, because they will fight Iran to the last
American, right? That's why they want the rest of NATO in there. We need all these white boys to go and fight and die for Israel because they're just useless goy, right? That's what they're telling you. This is what they're doing with the Ukraine. They're going to fight the Ukrainians to the last, the Russians to the last Ukrainian. Why? Well, we're not going to kill our guys. You know what I mean? Yeah, so Israel wants this big ground offensive, but they don't want to participate in it because, well, you know, their guys might get hurt. They might get killed. You know, have you no compassion? Like, this is the ridiculous we're dealing with. And on top of that, the global economy is about to go into the greatest depression mankind has ever seen. We're in a unique situation that we've never seen before. You know, and all because of a handful of fucking rich people. You know, like it's nuts. Anyway, I digress. That's my bitching and whining for now. So be safe out there, guys. Again, I get it. Everybody's broken, everybody's poor, but at least stock up the best you can. Because look, maybe you might be able to prep for 2026, right? And again, my number one New Year's resolution for this year was don't die. You know what I mean? Just don't die. But I can guarantee you, if you can't grow it yourself in 2027, you ain't eating. And again, I did not lie to you when I said 4 to 6 billion people are about to starve to death because of what Trump has done. I told you last year when he won. As soon as he did the tariff war, that was like, okay, that was already a guarantee that there would be like fertilizer shortages and stuff like that. And it's going to be a crisis everywhere. You know, like countries that were able to, you know, like you're talking about the collapse of industrial farming. Yeah, what happens when everybody starts starving? I mean, it's the chaos, guys. The chaos. You know, like right now, I know almost nobody can afford ammo prices because whether you're in Canada or the United States, I mean, like it's like $80 a box for a box of 30-06 or something like that. 60 to $80 is crazy. But I'd at least have a couple of, you know, bullet bandages or getaway plan, as Gerald Celente would say. Who knows how crazy tomorrow is going to be? Anyway, don't take anything for granted. But most importantly, don't obsess about it. It is what it is. Yes, you got to live through the chaos of it all, but you know, try to, you know, remain positive by doing positive things in your life right now. Like now's the time to not dwell and depress and, you know, that stuff. Don't do that. Do positive things. Build things. Like, don't wait for somebody to come and rescue when you can get on that yourself now. You know what I mean? And prioritize what's really important. Like a lot of people like overthink the prepping thing and think you need all this high-tech stuff and stuff like that. No, like, you know, or you have to go with the complete opposite, live in a tent in the bush. Like, no. There's a happy ground. Look at homesteaders. Look at how they did things. You know, like maybe if you, like you love coffee. Let's say you love coffee. Okay, stock up on the coffee, but maybe buy a hand grinder or something like that. Or, you know, like there's all kinds of stuff like that you can get. You can get it now. Get it while it's cheap, right? You know, do you have to have, like 9 million watts of power in your house? You know, no, like a couple of lights, a few this, run this. As long as you got heating and cooling and fresh water, everything else really is you can even live without a fridge. You know, just freeze dry stuff and, dry, canned stuff. Like you can go that route. And by canning, I mean like jars, jars of stuff. You can store all kinds of stuff like lentil beans and stuff like that for, get some oxygen absorbers, put them in there. They're good for like 20 years. Once you open the can, then, okay, you got to use it up. But what I'm getting at is that make the project of survivability one that where it's like, it's not based upon more consumption, but a level of comfort. Hence, go get some free books. So when the TV's out, you can't watch your Netflix, read a good book. Guys, and if you want a place to start, I'll tell you where to start with the book. Male or female, start with this book. Yeah, 777 pages. I'm page 390, I think. So I got a ways to go, but fantastic. So if someone told me, Reg, you're never going to go on the internet again, that'd suck. Reg, you're never going to be able to watch TV again. Well, I haven't watched TV really in years, so you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I'm not gonna get to watch gay people in some Netflix show, some gay show. Okay, fine. I'm good. Yeah, like I stopped watching show after Lost. I told myself I was never gonna follow a series that long again, and then I gave up on season 7 of what do you call it, Supernatural. I was after, okay, I'm out. Like it's just too long to follow. You know what I mean? That's the last time I really watched TV. Okay, yes, I'll catch the news once in a while when my dad's watching the news or whatever. But I mainly go on the internet. But even if I couldn't go on the internet, like okay, you can go get some. Like for example, I can go, like if I have hydro and stuff like that. With my laptop, DVD, it's got a DVD player in there. I can go stock up on like $2 used movies. I've got like probably about 100 and some used, CD movies. So I've always got entertainment. But you know what I do with that entertainment? Just to give you an idea. When everything gets really bad and everybody's all depressed because they can't go here and they can't go there and the world's bad, you know what I'm going to do? Okay, guys, come on over. We're going to play a board game. Hey, guys, come on over. We're going to... You got to look at for the silver lining, and just you got to do it in a way that is safe. Like again, I pity anybody that lives in like a downtown core anywhere in the world right now, because of the protests that are coming. Look, Trucker Convoy 2.0. What it's going to look like, if it's actually going to be a trucker convoy, I don't know, but at some point it's going to hit here when people get rough. But right now, Canada is probably the safest country in the world right now. Doesn't mean we're perfect, but it means we're probably doing better than most. The problem is we're attached to the 500-pound psychotic gorilla to the south of us, right? That actually wants to go to war with us too. Like it's nuts, right? But anyway, so prep, but don't dwell. Stock up, but don't panic. You know what I mean? You got to keep a cool head. You gotta just take things in stride. And you got to understand people around you, especially the normie types, they just never seem to get it, right? They just freak out all the time. That's all they can do is freak out. Like, oh, nothing ever happens, nothing ever happens. Oh my God. You know what I mean? And it's because of this, and it's because of this one thing. No, it's a multitude of things. I've been telling people for decades. And they still, like, again, this is why I don't have conversations with the average person, because it's like, no, you're going off of what you heard on Fox News or CNN or the CBC or the BBC or something like that. You have no fucking idea what's going on if you're, just listening to that. You have to listen to everything. Because almost, grandfather's rules, God rest him, but he was right. Believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. You know what I mean? That includes me. Because I can get stuff wrong. But I usually correct stuff when I do find out it's wrong. Disagreement, okay, I agree. I think it's this and you think it's that. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's like, okay, look, this happened. We can't confirm this, but we hear in this, right? My hunch is that the Iranians have probably killed tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers by now. Just because, like, every time a rocket hits, it injures people, or nobody was there. Everybody just got to safety just in time. But then you look like half the city block in Tel Aviv is gone. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh no, but that's from Gaza. It's not Gaza. You got Israelis out there saying this is not Gaza. This is Tel Aviv. And why are they hitting Tel Aviv? Well, the weapons industry's there, the military's there, the intelligence agencies are there. That's why they're hitting it, right? I mean, it's all over Israel. But what I'm telling you is that you can't do that much destruction, even if it's selective destruction, mainly hitting military bases and assets. But it's also hitting, like, you're telling me every time you hit a gas oil rig that there's nobody working there? Like, everybody's just magically out of the way. Every time you fucking blow up aircraft, at an airport or a runway, you're telling me half the airport is on fire, but nobody got killed? Like, they were just, everybody's just, just safe? No. There's thousands and thousands of people dead. I mean, look, if the Iranians are getting hammered that bad where they've probably lost 10,000 people already. We don't know what the actual number is going to be because it takes time to get the bodies out of the rubble, if you even knew they were there, right? So, yeah, this idea that everybody makes it to their bunker in time as soon as the air raid siren goes, like, no, it's thousands are dead. Like, every time one of these, motels gets hit or embassies get hit, there's nobody there. It's like, oh no, the Iranians have false, bad intel, only 2 people got hit. No. Like, they're not going to fire a missile at 2 people.
They're going to fire a missile at 400 guys in a building. They're going to do that. They're going to hit high target assets. Trust me, the Iranians, I'm sure they've got guys on the ground the same way the Mossad guys do. The difference is that the Mossad guys are, getting caught a lot easier in Iran because the Iranians, they've tightened up that, right? And like Americans, they stand out, right? So you're not going to use regular, John Q. American to be a CIA asset in Iran, right? They're gonna spot you pretty fucking easy. So no, the Iranians, they're hitting stuff very strategically. Why? Because they're not going to waste their shots. You know what I mean? Because maybe they don't have as much missiles as we think they do. Find that hard to believe, but consider, again, just look at the footage. These rockets, and do some research on these rocket trucks. Sure, not every rocket, if their rockets are only 50% accurate, that's insane. And they seem to be a lot more accurate than that. And again, there's nothing really stopping them at this point. Like the Arrow system is out, the THAAD system, they're pretty much all destroyed. There was only like 7 or 8 of them or 10 of them on the entire planet, and 3 or 4 of them have already been taken out. They took a THAAD system from South Korea and a THAAD system from fucking Taiwan, which the Chinese, yeah, do that. Yeah, very good. We like that. yeah. Make sure they don't have air defense. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, you can't make it up. So if they're going to take the THAAD systems from everybody else, okay, then when do they take the tankers from everywhere else? You know what I mean? So you lose 64 tankers, you can't fight that war anymore. Because if you need 64 tankers to fight this war, and you've lost 10, 12 of them already, even if you're including the Israeli ones, it doesn't matter if there's a Star of David or Stars and Stripes on the airplane that's dropping the American-made, ATACMS or whatever, firing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's, again, whose tanker it is. It's all for Israel, right? It's all for Israel. There's no way stopping that. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that because I always take a little bit too long on these, but there's always so much to say, right? And there's always so much time we're going to get to say it. So make sure you do the important things in life, friends, family, that kind of thing. Don't stress out. Remain positive as you can. Even I know a lot of people just love to obsess about the doom, but don't. Go do something, get informed, figure it out. Don't spend all day scrolling the internet and doom scrolling. So go do something positive. Write a song, read a book, write a book, go hang out, play a game with your niece or nephew or whatever, your kids. Go out to the park, go do something. And, if there's not too much snow out there, go out and start brushing your yard and getting your garden ready. Get your garden ready. Get your garden ready. Get your garden ready. Yeah. I want that to sink in. Get your garden ready this year. My God. Oh, well. Anyway, there we go. Be true to yourself, be true to others, always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day, eh?